You believe that opening your chest and showing your bleeding heart creates connection. You think that revealing your wounds, explaining your pain, confessing your devotion is the path to her loyalty. But in the realm of high-stakes attraction, vulnerability does not create intimacy. It creates leverage. Every fear you confess becomes a button she can press. Every weakness you reveal becomes a door she can walk through when she needs to control you. And she will. Not because she is evil, but because power respects only what it cannot bend. Most men never escape this trap, but there are 9 Machiavellian shifts. 9 precise psychological moves that transform you from a man who can be shattered by a woman's sigh into a man who breaks the waves of her chaos simply by standing still. Most men are easily broken because they hand over the keys to their emotional state without a second thought. They explain themselves when silence would speak louder. They chase when stillness would pull harder. They beg to be understood when remaining a mystery would haunt her for years. And in that surrender, they become furniture in her world. Predictable, disposable, forgettable. But unbreakability is not about becoming unfeeling. It is not about killing the heart that beats inside you. It is about becoming ungraspable, removing the handles she uses to manipulate your frame, closing the doors she expects to find open, becoming the man who cannot be moved by her moods, her tests, her chaos. These 9 Machiavellian shifts move you from a man who can be shattered by a woman's sigh to a man who breaks the waves of her chaos simply by standing still. They are not about becoming cold. They are about becoming untouchable. Let's begin with the first. The first shift is from participant to observer. You think her emotional storms are invitations. When she rages, you believe she is asking you to fix something. When she cries, you assume she needs you to soothe her. When she spirals into drama, you step in like a firefighter rushing toward the flames. But here is the brutal truth. Her chaos is not a crisis. It is a test. She is not asking you to participate. She is watching to see if you will crumble when you react to her chaos. You validate that she has power over your internal state. Every time you flinch, she notes it. Every time you scramble to calm her, she marks it in the ledger of your weakness. You become an actor in a play she is directing. She writes the script, sets the stage, chooses when the curtain rises and falls, and you perform on cue, like a trained animal desperate for her approval. The shift is this: stop participating in the drama. Start observing it from the balcony. When she storms, do not storm with her. When she cries, do not drown in her tears. Watch her the way a scientist watches weather patterns. View her outbursts as data, not emergencies. Let her emotions move through the room like wind while you remain the mountain that does not sway. This is not cruelty. This is sovereignty. You are not ignoring her pain. You are refusing to be destabilized by it. And when she screams and you do not flinch, when she weeps and you do not crumble, something ancient in her recognizes what she has found, not a man who can be moved by her moods, but a force she cannot break, and that is the only thing she truly respects. But observation alone is incomplete. You must eliminate the behavior that bleeds your power faster than any other. Explanation. The second shift is the death of explanation. You have been taught that communication is the key to every relationship, that real men talk about their feelings, that honesty and transparency are the highest virtues. So you over-explain your decisions. You justify your actions with paragraphs of reasoning. You confess your feelings hoping that understanding will lead to forgiveness. But every explanation is a small surrender. Here is the brutal truth that no one tells you. He who speaks first loses. Explaining yourself is a subtle form of submission because it implies you need her validation to exist. It says, I am uncertain and I require your approval before I can be at peace with my own choices. The man who explains is the man who kneels. Think about it. When you are late, you rush to justify. When you choose silence, you feel compelled to defend it. When you make a decision she questions, you lay out your reasoning like a defendant before a jury. But she is not your judge, and the moment you treat her as one, you have already lost the case. The technique is elegant in its simplicity. Answer with actions, not paragraphs. If you are late, you are late. No speeches, no apologies dressed in excessive words. If you choose silence, you choose silence. Let it stand, let it breathe, let it fill the room with its weight. When you refuse to explain, something powerful happens. You force her to fill the silence with her own thoughts. Her insecurities begin to speak. Her imagination begins to wander. She projects onto your silence whatever meaning she needs to find. And in that projection, you become a puzzle she cannot solve, a mystery she cannot close, a question that lives in her mind like a fever. Silence creates mystery, but your physical availability destroys it. The third shift is from presence to strategic absence. You think constant availability proves your loyalty. You believe that being there whenever she calls demonstrates devotion. You answer every text within minutes. You cancel plans to accommodate her. You make yourself endlessly accessible, thinking this is what love looks like. But what you are really doing is erasing your own value. She cannot desire what is always on her doorstep. The man fades into the background like wallpaper she stopped noticing years ago. But absence doesn't just create scarcity. It forces her mind to fill the void. She constructs fantasies about where you are, who you're with, what you're thinking, and those fantasies are always more powerful than your actual presence ever could be. Here is the paradox. She notices the man who does not look. Attraction grows not in the warmth of constant togetherness, but in the cold space between interactions. It is the gap that creates the longing, the distance that fuels the fantasy, the absence that becomes a presence more powerful than your physical form ever could be. The shift is to withdraw your attention before she expects it. Be the one who ends the call first. Be the one who leaves the room while the conversation is still warm. Be the one who is elsewhere when she assumed you would be waiting. Do not vanish out of spite. Vanish because your life has gravity beyond her orbit. When you master strategic absence, something shifts in her perception. Your disappearance becomes a presence she cannot fight. She begins to chase you, not because you are kind, not because you are attentive, but because you are gone. And what is gone cannot be taken for granted. What slips away must be pursued. What withdraws becomes precious. When you are present, you must change what you reflect back to her. The fourth shift is from validator to mirror. You have been conditioned to believe that your role is to affirm her, to compliment her beauty, to boost her confidence, to provide endless validation regardless of her behavior. You smile when she frowns, you praise when she fails, you pour admiration into her cup thinking this will make her love you. But it only makes her despise you. She uses men as mirrors to see a flattering version of herself. If you always smile no matter what she does, you teach her that she is perfect and you are disposable. Your constant validation becomes meaningless because it is not earned. It is automatic, predictable, boring, and boring is the death of attraction faster than cruelty ever could be. The shift is to become the mirror that does not bend. Reflect her behavior back to her without distortion. When she is cold to you, do not chase her with warmth. Become the void when she is warm. Be receptive. When she withdraws, you withdraw. When she invests, you invest. Match her energy with precise calibration. Do not be reactive. Be reflective. This is not game playing. This is the honest reflection that every soul secretly craves. She needs to see herself accurately, not through the fog of your desperate affirmation. When you stop feeding her ego automatically, she starves for your approval. The compliment you do not give haunts her more than the 100 compliments that lesser men shower upon her. She hates the void you create. It feels like punishment, and yet she is addicted to trying to fill it. She needs to earn what you no longer give freely. This requires you to abandon the fantasy that love is a sanctuary. The fifth shift is from romanticist to realist. You believe that love is a sacred merger of souls. You imagine it as poetry written in the stars, two hearts becoming one, a mystical bond that transcends the material world. But this belief is the very thing that destroys you. Because while you are writing sonnets in your imagination, she is calculating outcomes in her reality. Love is not a temple. It is a negotiation of power disguised as poetry. Her intuition, that you worship as divine insight, is often survival instinct dressed in feminine mystique. Her feelings, that you treat as sacred truths, are pattern recognition systems optimized over millennia for securing the best possible outcome. The shift is painful but necessary. Stop projecting your fantasy of a goddess onto her flesh. See her as a human being. Complex, yes, beautiful, often, but also driven by the same primal forces that drive all living creatures: security, status, the thrill of conquest, the intoxication of being desired by a man of value. When you see the game clearly, you stop being hurt by the moves. Her withdrawal is no longer a tragedy that breaks your heart. It becomes a tactic you can recognize and counter. Her silence is no longer proof of her complexity and depths. It becomes a strategy you can choose to engage with or ignore. Her tears lose their power when you understand they are often negotiations, not breakdowns. You realize that the pain you felt was never caused by her actions, it was caused by your delusion about who she was. And once you see the game, you stop trying to save her from it. The sixth shift is the rejection of the savior role. You believe that if you fix her problems, heal her trauma, and save her from her own destruction, she will love you forever. You rush in when she is broken. You extend your hand every time she falls off a cliff she built herself. You think this earns you loyalty, but it only earns you contempt. Here's the betrayal no one warns you about. She does not want a savior, she wants a sovereign. The man who saves her is viewed as a utility, a tool to be used when convenient and discarded when the crisis passes. He becomes associated with her lowest moments. Every time she looks at him, she remembers the version of herself she wants to forget. The shift is to let her sit in her own chaos. Do not offer solutions she did not ask for. Do not extend ropes to someone who keeps jumping into the same pit. Do not catch her when she leaps off edges she constructed. This is not abandonment. It is respect for her as an autonomous being capable of facing her own consequences when you refuse to save her. Something paradoxical occurs. She is forced to respect your boundaries because you have proven you will not dissolve yourself to rescue her. And in that refusal, she feels safer. Not because you are there to catch her, but because you are not entangled in her mess. You are solid ground she can return to when she is ready to stop falling. This detachment allows you to protect your most valuable asset. The seventh shift is from transparency to opacity. Society tells you to open up completely, to reveal every wound, every fear, every insecurity. Modern wisdom declares that real men share their feelings freely. But here is what they don't tell you. She doesn't want all of you. She wants the parts of you that remain mysterious. She wants the man who can be vulnerable about some things while remaining utterly sealed about others. When you give her everything, something dies in her eyes. Not always visibly, sometimes just a flicker, but it is there. She wants a rock, not a weeping willow. She cannot respect what collapses under the weight of its own emotions. Your confession of weakness does not draw her closer. It pushes her away. Because somewhere in her ancient wiring, she needs to believe you can protect her. And a man who cannot protect himself from his own feelings cannot protect her from the world. The shift is to keep a part of your soul sealed. This is not emotional repression. It is emotional sovereignty. There are rooms in your interior castle that no one enters. There are depths that remain unexplored by any woman, no matter how deeply you love her. You are a finished sentence that requires no further explanation. Opacity creates awe. She cannot manipulate what she cannot see. She cannot destroy what she cannot find. And the mystery of your interior world becomes the magnetic force that keeps her attention long after your words would have bored her. You become myth, while other men become furniture. You become the question she spends years trying to answer, while other men become the answers she forgets by morning. She will test this opacity by trying to make you jealous or angry. The eighth shift is from reaction to indifference. She will mention other men, casually, of course. Just enough detail to paint a picture. "Oh, my coworker said something funny today." But her eyes are watching you, waiting. She will pull away without explanation. She will provoke arguments over nothing, then act confused when you don't chase her apology. She will test you with silence, with coldness, with subtle cruelties designed to see if she can disturb your peace. This is not malice, it is instinct. She needs to know if you are the man she thinks you are. The failure most men commit is reacting. They get angry, they get jealous, they interrogate, they confess their insecurity through 1,000 small behaviors that reveal she has become the center of their gravity. And the moment she becomes your center, she loses all attraction to you. Because a man who can be moved so easily by her moods is not a man worth following. The shift is to cultivate what can only be called godlike indifference. This is not the absence of caring. You can care deeply and still remain unmoved by external currents. Indifference is the ability to witness her storms without being swept away, to hear her provocations without rising to the bait, to stand still while she circles you looking for cracks. When her tests meet your wall of indifference, they shatter. Every manipulation breaks against your stillness like waves against a cliff. She throws her chaos at you and finds nothing to grip. No handles, no levers, no buttons that trigger predictable responses. And in that moment of recognition, something shifts in her. She realizes she cannot control you, and that is precisely when she begins to submit. This leads to the final and most dangerous shift of all. The ninth shift is the willingness to walk away. Here is the ultimate truth of power in relationships. The person who cares the least controls the dynamic. If you cannot walk away, you have no leverage. If losing her would destroy you, you have already lost. Not her, yourself. This is not about bluffing. She will sense a bluff from across the room. Her instincts are calibrated to detect desperation like a predator detects blood. The willingness to walk away must be real. It must come from a place of completion, not threat. The mindset is this: you do not need her to be whole. She is not the missing piece that completes the puzzle of your life. The puzzle was complete before she arrived. She adds to it. She enhances certain colors. But if she leaves, the picture remains different, but whole. The shift is to become the man who could leave without a word, without a fight, without looking back. The god of the threshold. The one who stands at the door not as a threat, but as a fact. He may go, he may stay, but the decision is his, and she can feel the truth of that decision in the steadiness of his gaze, the calm of his voice, the way he does not negotiate with his own departure. This is what separates the men who get walked on from the men who walk away. The former believe that devotion is demonstrated through tolerance, that love means enduring whatever she throws at you, that suffering proves sincerity. But that is not devotion. That is captivity with a romantic label. When you reach this place, something in her recognizes the danger. Not danger of violence, danger of loss. She senses that you will survive without her. More than survive, thrive. And that knowledge that you could vanish and be perfectly fine is the most terrifying and seductive thing she has ever encountered. This is not a bluff. It is the quiet confidence that burns in a man who has done the work. A man who has built himself into something that does not require external validation to exist. A man who chooses her every day not because he needs her, but because he wants her. And that distinction changes everything. Unbreakability is the end of fear. You did not lose a woman when you started practicing these shifts. You lost the weakness that made you kneel before her. You shed the skin of the desperate man who handed his power to anyone who offered affection. You became something she had never encountered before. A man who cannot be moved. A man who cannot be manipulated. A man who walks through fire without flinching and remains whole on the other side. These shifts are not about cruelty. They are about reclaiming the sovereignty you sold for a touch of affection. They are about becoming the force she cannot resist because she cannot control it. They are about standing so still that the world moves around you. Stop building pedestals for women who have not earned them. The throne was always meant for you, not to rule her, to rule yourself. And when you sit upon it with the stillness of a king who needs nothing, she will kneel. Not because you demanded it, because you became the only thing worth kneeling for. The shifts are not optional. The only question is whether you make them consciously, with intention and clarity, or whether you make them through the slow, painful process of being broken again and again until you have no choice but to change. The man who chooses the first path becomes unbreakable. The man who waits for the second becomes a cautionary tale. The choice was never about her. It was always about you. And the man who makes that choice, the man who becomes unbreakable, he is the one she will remember long after the soft men have faded into forgotten names.